Hello everyone, welcome to Big E's Clubhouse. It's a Monday on a beautiful day down here in southeast Georgia. I wanted to come on today to discuss a few topics that came across this past week in college football, and also get into the coaching carousel, which continues on. More firings and more openings in the coaching ranks in college football. So let's get into first the couple of topics that came up over the past few days that kind of piqued my interest, and kind of want to get on here and give you my opinion on some things. And you can disagree or not, but certainly just trying to get you curious and get you thinking about some things that we're going through with college football and coaching and whatnot. So one topic I'm going to spend just a short period of time on, which I think is hilarious, is being from down here in southeast Georgia. We have a lot of red and black and UGA fans, and there's been a lot of talk about Gunner Stockton taking a knee at the end of the Florida game, and then doing the victory lap, the victory celebration, taking a knee on the last few plays. And so the only, it's funny, the fans, if you're better, Georgia was giving 7 points. And what's really hilarious to me is the backlash that Georgia and Gunner Stockton and Kirby and some of the fan base down here in Georgia have complained about. Why did they take a knee and blah 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 and whatnot. And as a youth coach and someone that follows sports, you win the game. You win the game. You don't care what the bettors think. And it's amazing how people jump ship on their team, their own team, just because they put a betting angle on the game. But Gunner Stockton did the right thing. Kirby did the right thing. Florida had no timeouts, and you run out the clock, get the ball game over, and get the win. And it's like the college basketball playoffs. You survive in advance, and that's the key to college football today. It doesn't matter how much you win by, unless you're a team that needs style points. But a team like Georgia, all they need to do is win ball games, keep winning, and they'll be fine for the playoff. So for those of you who are complaining in the social media realm, your team got to win. Be happy for the win, and if it affected your pocketbook a little bit, so be it. That's your problem. And but thought it was a great, smart move by that young man to take a knee. You have to be pretty aware of what's going on, and he's really turned into a fine quarterback, and he seems to be even a better person. So kudos to Gunner on taking a knee, and go Dogs. So my next thing that popped up on my radar of interest was LSU. The governor coming in, pretty much clean house at LSU, and seems like they're going to take over the search for their next head coach. And my concern and mine is that a politician getting involved in an extreme way in college athletics. That comes about because the NCAA division committees, or if they even have a committee, that really doesn't exist anymore. So there's really no one man in the table, so to speak. And when you open the door like this, you invite people in, and can be a very damaging thing to college athletics, and especially college football. The governor has put his foot in the door and ran through the door, and he has made some decisions and been on the news media, and he's doing what a politician does. He'll stand up there and he says, looking out for the taxpayers, the constituents, and all that stuff that people like to hear. This is not a one-sided or the other deal. It's just me looking at it as, a typical move by a politician to help himself in getting reelected, or they're good at talking and being on the media and whatnot. So, the one thing we'll agree, if you're trying to protect your state and your finances, if your finances aren't good, you certainly have to look at your budget and determine what, if the taxpayer money is going to, being a state school, if it is going to the salaries of coaches and whatnot. I can agree with the fact that sometimes that gets out of hand, and you need to bring that in, and I certainly understand that. But I think there's a lot more in play here than what we're seeing. I think if we dive deeper into this, there'll be more things that will come out here, because I just know when we can't even open the government now, and we get politicians involved with it. A lot of money exchanges hands. A lot of sellout goes on, and I worry about that. And I worry about that for LSU football. It's a great program, has a lot of history, and if I think it may be a trend we might see down the road continue throughout the states, especially those who need to take a sharp look at their budgets and look at something like the coaches getting paid too much, which I do think that's the case. It's gotten out of hand a little bit. And then you throw in NIL and whatnot. So there's a lot of money going around. And when you involve that amount of money that's being distributed, everybody wants their hand in it. And it can really affect the fan. It can really affect the players. And it can really affect the programs if these politicians continue to get involved with it. And like I said, if we dive deeper into this, there may be more reasons why, other than budgetary matters and taxpayer dollars may be involved, that are contributing to the fact a politician would come out like this and take such a stand. So that's something to be careful with, and I would certainly keep an eye on it, and I'm going to dig deeper into it and see what I can find, and just to give you something to think about, and you may want to dig deep into it as well. The last thing I'm going to talk about with this coaching situation is deals with the money. Like I said, when you bring it in, a lot of things happen. I don't begrudge anyone making a lot of money. All the power to them. But do the right thing. Why do you coach? I did a youth coaching, and my only reason I got into it was certainly wasn't wins and losses. It was about developing young people, trying to give them a skill so they could work at and challenge them to be the best that they can be. Not everybody's a 5-star. Some kids never get to that point. But just seeing kids put the effort into improving themselves in some manner, developing that skill, and seeing the smile on their face when they have some success is why I got into coaching. And sports has always been with me a big component in developing me as a man, developing me as a person, developing me with confidence, discipline, growth, and some success. Certainly a whole lot less than others, but it wouldn't cause a lack of effort. And that effort has carried on into my life, which has given me the opportunity to deal with adversity and conflict and fight through it. And, that's a big part of my life and we all go through challenges. And it's just a matter of getting up in the morning, your feet hit the ground, you look in the mirror, you look and see if you see a good person, and hopefully you do. Some days you won't. But at least get up and look in the mirror and challenge yourself in that mirror to be a better person today than you were yesterday, and go out and do the right thing. You're not going to always do the right thing, but if you do something wrong, learn from that mistake. And I've always said, it's more important what you do after that mistake than the mistake itself. So that's why I got into coaching, those things, to help youth develop and to hopefully give them something that will encourage them in their life journey. Now, the last thing I'm going to say on all this, to all you politicians, ADs, fans, big money boosters, you got a choice here. My dad used to say, you either hire a coach to coach, or you go hire an after dinner speaker. So which one do you want? The one thing good a politician is, or an AD, or a booster, a big time booster, is they love the camera. They love self-importance, and they love to speak. So my suggestion would be to hire a football coach, someone that can develop kids, teach them a long life journey, let them go through adversity, help them through adversity, and help them through their life, or give them some skills for their life journey. And that's what I would do. I would hire me a football coach. So I'm going to go over some coaching openings and give you my opinion on why these coaches would I think would be a good fit. I think they develop players. They know how to have personal relationships with players. They seem to be player coaches. The players seem to like them. And they have coached kids that may not be 5 stars. They may be 2 stars, 3 stars, 4 stars. But they certainly have done more with less, and they've taught kids how to play football and learn how to fight through adversity. And so these coaches are who I would put in some of these positions that are open, which I consider maybe some of the best jobs available. And so these are my suggestions for the openings. I'm gonna rank these on how I feel are most important. And let me say this, everybody wants to go after the new kid in town, or the new, who is the darling of the coaching industry. That doesn't always work, folks. There's no guarantees today. So these selections are strictly based on why I got into coaching and why I think coaching is important. My first job that I have on the list as my top job is Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech, of course, is in the ACC. I don't think it would be very difficult to go into Virginia Tech and create a championship type caliber team. The recruiting states up in that area are highly qualified with players throughout, and someone can go in there and really change that program around. And there's no better person for that than James Franklin. He knows the territory. He was at Vanderbilt, he was at Maryland, he was at Penn State, and he knows how much of a hotbed that area is with athletes. And I think James Franklin would be a tremendous choice for Virginia Tech. Plus 2, I think James can do what he loves. I think he can go coach. Finish his career there. I think it would be easy to create a championship team there, because ACC is starving for somebody right now with Clemson, Florida State, Miami, all of them kind of, having a tough season. And Virginia Tech, under Frank Beamer, used to have some great teams up there. So James Franklin would be great. And like I said earlier in the video, go hire Mike Vick, bring him back to Virginia Tech, and get the ball rolling up there for the Hokies in Blacksburg. My next job is Florida. I think Florida needs somebody with a little swagger, like a Spurrier type. Of course, Kiffin is the main one that everybody would choose because of his swagger. And but I think the next on table is Eli Drinkowitz at Missouri. Guy that's done a hell of a job with, doing more with less. He's a really good recruiter. Players seem to like him. They play hard for him. And I think he would be a great fit. And he can put the right staff together down there for player development. And they need somebody down there to really teach those kids how to play. It's one thing to get a bunch of 5-stars, but they're not guaranteed that they know how to play football. They're talented enough to get away with their talent, but nobody's really coaching them. So I think Eli Drinkowitz has a good hold on that aspect of, I can bring in top talent here, but can you coach them? And I think that's what Saban did the best of anybody. He could bring in top talent, but he coached them. Those kids learned how to be better football players. So I think Eli is a good choice for the Florida position, and his background speaks for itself. Appalachian State, Arkansas State, NC State, Auburn, coached on the Gus Malzahn. You may have difference of opinion on Gus, but Gus's name is always mentioned in the coaching tree or the coaching ranks. So there's something to it. So I'm going to go with Eli Drinkowitz at Florida, and then that will open up a job in Missouri, which someone could come in there and pick up where Eli left off. Probably I would suggest maybe the Memphis coach, Silverfield, going to Arkansas. Memphis is close. He can recruit that Memphis area. And I think that would be a good replacement for Missouri, is Ryan Silverfield from Memphis. My next job on the list would be Penn State. I choose Penn State, Big Ten powerhouse, tremendous history. And, they're not far away from being right back in it. They just may need a change. Sometimes a coach being there too long can get a little stale. And again, we get used to being in front of the media, giving after dinner speeches and whatnot, and dealing with boosters and whatnot. So you get off track a little bit. And you forget about why you got into coaching. And not saying James Franklin did that, but I see it happening all the time. Your time is spent elsewhere than doing what you really love to do. So my pick here is Brian Hartline out of Ohio State. He's had great success playing at Ohio State, coaching at Ohio State. I think he'll be a great young coach for Penn State to go get. He's been in line and been spoken about several times on jobs, and I think he's due for someone to pick him up out of Ohio State. And he's been part of a great program and under a great guy in Ryan Day, and I think he's ready to do that. And I think Ryan Day will give him his blessing and wish him well and see you on the field. And the other thing to that is Jim Knowles is the defensive coordinator at Penn State currently. And Jim Knowles was previously at Ohio State. And I believe their relationship is good. And I think Brian Hartline can go back and get with Jim Knowles at Penn State and resurrect that program pretty fast. So my pick for the Penn State job is Brian Hartline. My next job on the board is Auburn. Well, let's see. How many coaches have they had? Is it the coaching? Or is it the boosters? Or what is it? There just seems to be a constant small cycle of a couple of years of running coaches through there. And but I think it's time for them to stabilize a little bit and get behind somebody. And there's nobody tougher in college football right now that I think can handle this situation than Brent Key at Georgia Tech. He's a former offensive lineman, and as we know in the SEC, you better be good in the trenches. And he has a great knowledge of that. He's done a terrific job at Georgia Tech. He also can recruit the state of Georgia. He knows all the high school coaches in Georgia, and with the recruiting hotbed of Georgia, it'll be a great fit for Auburn. It's right across the state line, and I think Brent Key could bring some stability and toughness to that program, and I think that would be their pick that I would go with for the next 4 or 5 years and let him develop those players down there. And again, I'll remind you, all these players, I believe, can develop talent. They may get the talent, but they still have to develop them. And all these picks are really designed toward developing that talent. So Brent Key is the choice at Auburn. My next job is Arkansas. Arkansas, I think, is starving again for some relevancy, and they have somewhat of a connection. Again, I'll bring up Gus Malzahn again. His name has come up for that job many times, which hasn't happened, but for some reason, because he coached, I believe he coached high school in the state. He coached at Arkansas State, so he knows the territory. And one of his proteges is Kenny Dillingham out of Arizona State. Kenny is an up-and-comer, offensive mind type coach. They have a quarterback in place right now that can develop. And Kenny Dillingham has done a tremendous job at Arizona State with bringing in talent, using the transfer portal. And I think Kenny Dillingham should get a shot at the Arkansas job. He knows the state. He knows the area, the recruiting trails. And I believe he will, if he can bring in a top defensive coordinator there and pay him and get him in there, I think Arkansas will be back on track with Kenny Dillingham out of Arizona State. And that will open up the Arizona State job. I don't have an answer for that one yet. My next job is Florida State. Florida State needs to get back on the trail again. They were there for a short period of time, and I must say I enjoy college football even more when Florida State is back in the mix. It's time to move on from Norvell, and not that Norvell, I think Norvell will land somewhere and be a good coach. But I think the time has finally run out at Florida State. And my pick for that job is Alex Golesh, who's currently at University of South Florida. I can't say can't say highly enough the job he's done at South Florida. He knows all the ins and outs about the state of Florida. He works extremely hard on the recruiting trail. I think he has a great relationship with his players. I think he is a tremendous motivator and developer of young men. And I think he has done a great job through the transfer portal. I think he evaluates talent just about as good as anybody I've seen. They really have some talented players down at South Florida, and you wonder why they're not playing for some big-time school. But they're at South Florida, and you never know. He might have some players on South Florida that'll roll right on up there to Florida State and change that program. He seems to have put together a good staff that's very loyal to him, and that's what Florida State needs. They need to cut back the noise a little bit and let the guy go in and do his job and get Florida State back in the mix. So Alex Golesh is my pick for Florida State. Last but not least is LSU. I'm sure everybody's wondering why they're not number one on my list. And there's only one reason. It's political involvement. That's my only reason. They may have shot themselves in the foot somewhat by getting involved, but I certainly understand if you got a budget to meet and the taxpayers are paying a lot of the freight for the coaching contract and whatnot. I certainly think you ought to take a look at it. But the LSU program is really the big thing in the state, other than the New Orleans Saints, and so LSU needs to be prominent in the college football picture. But the only reason is politicians involved in money and whatnot, and when you got a lot of hands in the basket, a lot of things can go wrong. So, but being that said, I think the coach for LSU now is John Sumrall. John is currently coaching at Tulane. He's had a stint at Troy, played football at Kentucky, a linebacker, tough guy, very disciplined coach. He's been tabbed for other jobs, but I think LSU's the one he needs to go to. He knows the territory, being the coach at Tulane. So he knows what to expect out of all of it, and he may be able to set some of his parameters that he wants to see too, that everybody can agree on, even the politicians and the big boosters can agree on. So I think John Sumrall is a good pick here. Young coach. Players seem again like to play for him. He seems to develop players who are not selected by the big schools and make these kids better at football. And I think he can bring some kids from over Tulane that could come over there and help LSU with their football team. So my pick there is John Sumrall to LSU. Got a couple of excuse me, other ones, things to think about. And one is Eric Morris at North Texas. I kind of threw this one on the list because of the Cignetti Effect. When he left JMU, he took a lot of players with him from JMU and really changed the program in Indiana considerably. So down in North Texas, if you haven't seen them, they're a very good football team on both sides of the ball. They have tremendous talent. And they have a freshman quarterback and running back that, if Eric Morris is chosen as a coach, probably come with him. And I would highly recommend someone looking at Eric Morris at North Texas and via the Cignetti Effect, with the transfer portal. He's got some players down there that are no doubt big time football players, and they could go in some program and really help out. So look at someone to consider would be Eric Morris from North Texas down there. So something to consider. The other one I would look at is Bob Chesney from James Madison University. Somewhat of the same effect of North Texas. He has a lot of good players that could influence a program, and he could bring them along with him. He's a fiery coach, and he took over from Cignetti and kept on rolling. He was currently at Holy Cross. And this guy is an up-and-comer, and I think at some point somebody's going to give him a chance, and he's going to develop into a wonderful coach. I love the way he coaches. He puts it all out on the field, and his players see it, and you can see how they react to him. and I think Bob Chesney would be someone to consider as well, along with Eric Morris. My last throw in here is John Gruden. What can you say about Gruden? Everybody knows his history pretty much. A fiery guy. I think he would be great at some college program. I think he's all about development and improving young men to with their skills in life, and I think he would be a great choice. He could put together a tremendous staff for any school. The only difficult part is he's going to want full reign of the program, and I don't know how many politicians or ADs or presidents or after dinner speakers or whatever you want to call them will like that. When you hire a guy like John Gruden, you get what you get, and you're gonna get all of John Gruden, and you better know him well, because he's an alpha dog, and he will take over the program and run that thing by himself, and he's not gonna need a whole lot of advice. So anyone that's willing to sit back and just enjoy the ride, then John Gruden's your man, and enjoy their football Saturday sitting up in the bleachers with their shaking hands and the cocktails and their fancy dinners and fancy lunches and whatnot in the press box or their box or suite or whatever. Go after John Gruden. So those are my topics for the day, and just to give you something to think about. That's all it's all about, is think about it. And like to know your comments. Please leave one, and it's going to be interesting to see where it goes and see what school goes after, and see how much money's thrown around, and see how many politicians get involved. And at some point, there's got to be a line drawn between the politicians and the programs. There's got to be some sort of NCAA committee or something that's some people that are hired that know football and no athletic programs and no sports, not necessarily have a high grade point average or magna cum laude. Got to get some former coaches or something involved with it to help regulate it and help it settle down a little bit, so it'll become more enjoyable instead of all the chaos that's out there today. So anyway, that's my points. I hope you will like or subscribe to the channel. I hope you'll tune back in on Thursday for my Week 11 picks. Tough road a little bit last week, but we survived. We're a little bit bent, not broken. And come back to check in with me on Thursday for my Week 11 picks for Saturday. And it looks like another quality Saturday of football games. And I'm sure there'll be even more chaos in the power rankings and the prognosticators picking who's going to be in the playoff. So I wish you a good day. Happy Monday, and make this week the best week of your life.